Hey, I've got an idea for a Tuesday night. You, us, some computers and microphones, you put them all together, and you've got Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Ken Ray. Each week on Mission Log Live, you bring it. You call in, you chime in, you ring in with your questions, your comments, concerns, I guess, if you want to. Tonight, Vegas, baby. A lot of you know this, but I'll tell you like you don't. Once upon a time, there was a Star Trek theme park in a hotel. Star Trek The Experience was this truly just awesome thing filled with characters, several of whom will be here this evening. 2 actors here this evening, but they represented several characters in The Experience. April Hebert and Kirsten Shapansky will join us to tell us how it worked and share their experience of The Experience. Now, we would love to hear your experience of The Experience as well. So to do that, you're going to have to get in touch with us. The good news is there are a few ways. You can click on the link in your Zoom meeting, in our Zoom meeting, in the Zoom meeting, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone. You can even call us the old-fashioned way, punching in numbers like one of those chickens that plays tic-tac-toe at the fair. 669-900-6833. 669-900-6833. That is the number to call. Then you enter the meeting code that you'll find in the show description, and then we just start talking.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody who is joining us live tonight. Who do I see right now? We got Meredith. I believe she's a #1 Mission Log Live fan, Ken. Not mistaken there. We got Mark, we got Paul saying hi, John McQuillan, John Krikorian. So a lot of familiar faces there. Thank you all to everyone who's joining us tonight. Now, if you're catching the show after the live broadcast, we welcome you as well. Remember, you find us each week and the previous episodes at facebook.com/missionlogpod or at youtube.com/Roddenberry If you're more of an audio only kind of person, like let's say you're driving, please don't watch the video while you're driving. Well, we've got you covered there for audio. The audio from this show goes out in its very own podcast feed. You can find that on iTunes and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Speaking of fine podcasts, head over to podcast.roddenberry.com where you will find links to all of our shows. Mission Log, The Trek Files, Women at War, Priority One. It's just a carnival of fine podcasts. And as long as you are here right now, like and share, because sharing is caring.
Now, if you joined us last week, you got a teaser of the really cool VR thing that we're working on with our friends over at sansar.com. I actually was wandering around the bridge earlier today, John.
Oh, you were? You were?
Yes, I was. It was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. What my favorite thing, and every time I go, I find something else to like about it, but I always forget this one. If you look straight up, you can see, the galaxy just sort of flying by in that window that we zoomed in on during the cage. You remember the very first episode of, the one that actually never happened. I mean, it did, but it didn't.
Yes.
So if you look straight up, you can see stars and galaxies and all kinds of things just whizzing by. Don't do it for too long.
Okay. All right.
Because tiny bit.
Yeah. No, see, what you're saying, though, is you're teasing this really incredible experience you can only have in VR on our bridge, but nobody can get to that bridge yet because we're saving it for May 22nd in our post-show hangout. And you can be prepared to join us for that post-show hangout on May 22nd. You go over to sansar.com, find out how to get started. And here's the thing, even if you don't have a VR rig, the goggles and the whole thing, don't worry, you're not left out. You can join us through your computer as well. As long as you've got a PC running Windows, you can join us in the Sansar environment, and we will release that link a little closer to that date. So keep your eyes open for that. We'll put it on Facebook, we'll put it on Twitter, and we'll let people know where to go to hang out with us on the TOS bridge. And that thing is beautiful. We showed some preview images last week, and that
it is. Yeah, it is really cool. There is one thing we would suggest before 2 weeks from now, though. Go ahead to sansar.com and set up your account. Doesn't cost anything, but you'll, as long as you're running a Windows machine, you can download the application. You can go ahead and set up your avatar as well, because if you try to do that like 5 minutes before you go in, you'll be showing up 5 minutes after we're done. And it's not that they're slow. It's just, it's hard to it's hard to build your avatar. I mean, it took me, I took far too much time. What is it they call it? The guys over at Priority One refer to it as Space Barbie. When you first go into Star Trek Online and start building your avatar, a lot of people, they don't even get to the game the first time because they, spend so much time making their guy look just the way they want it to, or their gal. So, play Space Barbie before that night, and then on the 22nd, come hang out with us, because after this show, we'll be doing that thing there. Reminder, we'll meet April and Kirsten in a few minutes. So if you have stories to share about the experience, your experience with the experience, or questions about how it all worked, now is the time to call in and be ready. Again, you can click the Zoom link or call 669-900-6833, 669-900-6833. If you were a betting guy or gal, you could probably bet what our poll question is this week. But hold on, we're not ready for this week's poll question. We're going to recap last week's first.
Yeah, so last week I'm still shocked by this, and it has nothing to do with the holodeck or the reality of experience. I'm really shocked that last week we asked if you were going to Star Trek Las Vegas. Yes, 10%, no, 90%. And I guess I'm not shocked in the greater scheme of things. It's, however many thousands of people go to Vegas for that one event. I guess I'm surprised because it seems to me there's a lot of crossover between the Mission Log audience and the going to STLV audience, but not a lot of people planning to go this year, at least out of the people who are voting in our poll. So we hope that all 10% of you, we hope that you come by our table. We'd love to say hi.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Although if you could time it so you don't all come by at once.
Yeah,
because
true.
that might be a lot. So that was last week's poll question. This week's poll question, and this is going to shock you. Did you ever go to the Star Trek, the experience I think I had one too many of these in there, maybe two. Did you ever go to Star Trek, the experience in Las Vegas? It's really Vegas centric for the past couple of weeks, John. We need to come up with a new Vegas question next week. So far, the yeses are 36%, the nos are 64%. Of course, as far as the hosts of this show, you're looking at 100%. But I assume we'll be talking about our experiences with the experience as the night goes on. And of course, we want to have other people call in with theirs as well.
I can't wait to experience that.
The thing will be awesome, John. The thing will be. Yeah. Do we want to talk about who's coming up on the show in coming weeks, or do we want to get to this week's show and then tease the other people later? It's not nice to tease people at all.
I'm going to tease that we will be teasing them later. I'm going to tease that we want you to hang on, because later I'm going to tell you who's coming up on the show in coming weeks. How about that?
So later you're going to tell people who's going to be on later. That's awesome. That's just it's like Inception in here today, isn't it? So then why don't you please, if you wouldn't mind, sir, go ahead and introduce the people we have on tonight.
We have two fantastic guests who, this is the coolest thing about them. They were there from the beginning of Star Trek The Experience. For those of you who didn't get to go, who know nothing about it, Star Trek The Experience was opened at the Las Vegas Hilton. It opened January 3rd, 1998. And then a little bit later, the Borg Invasion 4D opened March 18th, 2004. The whole shebang closed September 1st, 2008. But for that 10-year run plus, our two guests were there, boots on the ground, working that show. We have April Hebert and Kirsten Shapansky, and I just want to bring them both on so they can tell us what they did, how they did it. It was a pretty magical place, and I know that we've got stories to tell. I know that our audience has stories to tell, so I'm waiting for them to call in and share those with us. April and Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Hello there.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let me just start with the most basic and maybe dumb question. I don't know. Actors first or Star Trek fan first that got you, to say, I'm going to go see what I can shake up at the experience.
Well, I can tell you that I wasn't born a Star Trek fan, but I did watch the original Star Trek series in my mother's bedroom on a little 10-inch television set because my family wouldn't watch it with me, so I was by myself in the bedroom back in the 60s. And so Yeah, I was an actor then. I was a kid, so that's where I grew to love Star Trek, and it's never ended.
Kirsten, what about you?
I was a Star Trek fan. I was born a Star Trek fan, actually. My mom raised me watching Star Trek, and but I came to the experience more as an actor. I remember walking through the Las Vegas Hilton in like '96, early '96, seeing the walled off area where construction was happening and seeing the adverts for Star Trek The Experience and thinking to myself, reflecting on my Vegas acting work, I pity the poor bastards. They get to work there. And then, God, I don't even think it was a year later, April, when we were contacted about auditioning and starting to work there. And before you know it, I was there. And it was actually very interesting. I'm an original series fan more than a Next Generation fan. And the experience really is very Next Generation oriented, but it was still a very interesting run, a very interesting gig to be on, and I enjoyed it a lot.
And we actually started working there on August 4th of 1997. So most of it was constructed. There was a lot of stuff that needed to be done, and so they hired us. Even though we were actors, they hired us to test all the right equipment that we were going to end up actually working.
Help me out, because you said you guys were contacted about trying out. I mean, I sort of assumed it was the other way around. Like you heard this thing, and so you went down to see. How is it that you guys were? How is it that somebody reached out to you about coming to be part of it rather than the other way around?
We know people.
Yeah, Paramount Parks actually did some local hiring for management. And one of the connections who was involved in the casting process and who would be involved in the selection of the actor operators was a local that April and I had worked with. So that's how we got that inside scoop. But we still had to go through the cattle call. We still had to go through the big Paramount Parks audition that they held. Just to get ourselves into the system.
You would not believe how many people came in from LA to audition for that.
I bet.
Well, I was actually going to ask about that, but I think April, are you from Vegas originally, or I mean, like, you guys were both already around? You didn't actually come in from other places.
Yeah, we were working in Vegas. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd only been in Vegas. Let's see, in '97. I'd only been in Vegas about 4 years, but in that 4 years, I'd been acting in local Vegas productions, Vegas work. So that was my background.
And so when you got this gig, though, as an actor, you must think, all right, now I've got a full-time acting gig. This is sort of where it's at for me. But they brought you in so early. April, you were employee number 1 as an actor?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I said, they brought us in early when they needed people to test the equipment. It wasn't done yet by any means, but the equipment was done to the point where the county required so much time on the equipment. So we would come in and run cycles. I don't, maybe you can explain it better, Kirsten, what we used to do.
I mean, we just had to run the equipment, literally just put it through its paces. We would run shuttles without even the show. The shuttle would just sit there and quietly swish back and forth, moving around and everything as it ran through its requisite cycles. After each cycle, when we first started, we had to run underneath the shuttle and look for oil leaks, hydraulic fluid leaks, and report them to the techs if we found any, that sort of thing. And then the same thing for the transporter and eventually the turbo as well. It was just the temporary certificate of occupancy that was necessary to get us on the road towards opening required like 1,000 cycles per instrument to be tested before submitting for the TCO.
And at no point you were like, "Damn it, man! I'm an actor, not a mechanic." You were. That was. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we were also going to be involved in the blocking and staging of the show once all of the production people were in to actually establish the show. So we knew that eventually we would be acting, and April and I and a few other people who came after us and within a couple weeks were used on a lot of production and promotion.
There is, I mean, we should probably back up a tiny bit, because when we ran the poll earlier, the question that we asked was, were you ever on The Experience? And the majority of people actually watching tonight said they hadn't been. We're all sort of, I mean, you guys are immersed in it because you were there from before it opened. John and I wrote it. I mean, I was only there, I guess, 2 or 3 times. I don't know how many times John was. We should walk people through what it was, though, because if somebody says it was a ride, that's not the whole thing. And yet if you say actors and you're like, oh, it was a show. No, that's not the whole thing either. I mean, it's kind of funny. John said, we're not talking about virtual reality. Kinda. I mean, how would you guys describe the experience from I've decided I'm going to go to holy cow, what did I just do?
Well, the experience itself was a time station more than anything else. There was a huge backstory to go along with it. It was a time station that had been placed in this particular time in human history so that Starfleet could keep an eye on us because, apparently we needed babysitting. But yeah, so it was a bar, a restaurant, a museum, lots of shops. It was, gosh, how many square feet was it, Kirsten? Like 70,000 or something?
I can't even remember. Yeah. I can't even remember.
Many tens of thousands of square feet, all dedicated to the future. And the rides, the Klingon Encounter was the first ride there. And in that one, you were kidnapped, basically, by Korath and saved by the Enterprise. And in the Borg Invasion, you were, it was kind of like a scary ride, because there were Borg. Yeah, Borg were chasing you. So like a haunted house kind of, except with Borg. But yeah, it was an amazing adventure no matter what you did. And when you went down those stairs and you looked up at the stars shining overhead and the beautiful ships, you were not in the 20th century anymore. You had stepped into the 24th century. And every day I got to be in the 24th century. And there's nothing like it. There's no experience that I've ever had that was like it.
Experience is really what it was. It was Star Trek, the experience. You experienced Star Trek going in there, whether you were in Quark's bar mingling with aliens and, having a variety of different types of Trek themed drinks, or even in the retail area, because Ferengi were there. So of course there's going to be a retail area. The conceit behind the show was that you're just going to go through a show, and then all of a sudden things go wild and you're actually on the Enterprise D, which was a lot of work was put into it, making it an accurate facsimile of the stage as best as they could. A lot of the TNG actors commented that sometimes they would just get taken right back to the show, walking down our transit corridor or entering our bridge, even though there were minor, the bridge had minor differences, but they still were amazed by it. In fact, was it LeVar Burton, April, who commented how weird the bridge was, because they never had a whole 360-degree bridge.
Actually, most of them. I remember Marina did as well, because they had the cutaway bridge, and ours was you walk onto the bridge and you're on the bridge, and so it was quite something for them to see the bridge in its entirety.
I remember the first time I did it, I really thought I nearly missed my plane, actually, because the guy that I was there with was like, oh no, we'll just stop by and do that really quickly. I'm bummed that was the first time, because I seriously had to do the experience. And the second we were, off the shuttlecraft, or however the story went, I had to grab a cab and get to the airport ASAP. But I do remember thinking, oh, I'm going to go do this ride. And then, if memory serves, you actually you're on the bridge long before you actually end up on the shuttlecraft, right?
Yes.
It was, for me personally, and people have heard me say this, at least Mission Log people have heard me say this before, I cried. I didn't break down and cry, but I teared up, because that was my Star Trek. And so to suddenly be on my bridge of my Star Trek was an insane thing for me. Of course, as said earlier, that a lot of people watching have said that they were on the experience. We want to hear from you guys as well. If you have any questions about how the whole thing came together, behind the scenes stuff, or if you just want to tell us about the first time you were actually on the Star Trek experience, click the Zoom link, because we'd love to hear from you, or give us a call, 669-900-6833. That number again, 669-900-6833.
Ken, I was going to say that you're in good company, because I shot an interview on the bridge with Will Wheaton, and 3 minutes into being there, he said, yeah, I've been up here before, and I tell myself that I'm not going to get choked up. And as soon as he said that, you could see his eyes start to get red, and he gets a little choked up and can't get through the words, because it was a very emotional experience for him to be there. And he had been there multiple times, and that still happened. And April and Kirsten, going back to what you're saying about the experience, more so than just a theme park attraction, it really was about the feeling that you got being there. I think the first time I went was 2004. I was in Vegas for a friend's wedding, and I knew that if I was going to be in Vegas, I had to go to Star Trek The Experience. It was shortly after the Borg invasion opened. And like you guys, I grew up working as an actor. I've worked in themed entertainment, know what it's all about. For whatever it was I spent on the ticket, $40, $50, and going through the Borg invasion, for the moment that I thought it was real, for the split second that I was afraid for my life, seeing Borg come at me, the lasers coming out of their eyes, that whole thing, that was worth every penny. I thought that was just absolutely the coolest thing about it. And then when it's all over, you could go to sit in Quark's bar and have a drink that will knock you on your butt for the rest of the day.
We took it very seriously. We were trained, we were hired and trained to view ourselves as custodians of the Trek, the IP, the franchise, and to be a part of the expression of Trek in the world. And we took that seriously in terms of delivering that experience. The aliens on the floor, the Starfleeters on the Enterprise, and even the retailers and food and beverage people just had an intense love for what we were representing, and we took representing Trek very seriously. And it was in that regard, it was really a point of pride for us to be entrusted with that, and to work with all the people involved, Viacom, CBS, Paramount, whomever, to continue to promote the Trek brand and represent it as we did.
I'm kind of curious. You both have Trek in your blood. You're both professional actors. You're both coming in really early to this project. What kind of influence did you have on the other actors of the show that was being developed? Because there are a lot of actors who came and went, some who stayed for a long time. But I'm just curious. You're sort of the originators of these roles, and I want to know what influence you left on the other actors.
We actually did originate the roles. And then we trained the other actors. And one of the things that I used to tell them, because I knew that we were going to be doing this over and over and over again, sometimes, 30, 40 shows per actor per day up in the ride when you were Starfleet officer. And I would always tell them that for somebody coming through or a guest, it was the first time that had ever happened to them. Even though they were doing it, the actor was doing it over and over and over, that you couldn't get blasé about it. You had to realize that this was the first time and this was the first experience that this person was going to have, and you had to make it worth their while. And I want to hope that that kind of imprinted on them. We had wonderful actors there, some really excellent actors, and it was great to work with them.
Talk to me about the training. I'm curious. I mean, like you said, you originated the roles. Did somebody come to you and say, all right, here's who you're playing? Or did you come to people and say, hey, I was thinking maybe I would like to do this? Because I know, April, I want to say you had 4 roles that you played regularly. Is that correct? Or is it more or less than that?
Well, I was Starfleet for many years. Then I started to play a Vulcan, and first I played the Vulcan up in the experience, in the attraction itself. But after a time, then I actually went out onto the floor as one of the aliens in the walk-around characters. And so I was T'Pril, Professor T'Pril, the Vulcan, and I was also Commander Tarin, the Andorian. So I guess I played every character up in the experience in the ride, and then I played 2 different characters out on the floor. But those are really separate kinds of acting.
Yeah. Kirsten, what about you?
I, like April, I started in Starfleet. They actually had Starfleet divided. When we first started, there was gold rotation and maroon rotation. We literally, you wore the gold uniform or the red uniform, and you actually had to, you actually had different specific roles in the show, in addition to the janitor and the blues. And eventually they did a cross training where everybody mixed, and so everybody was doing everything. So that eventually happened. April and I were selected for gold rotation when we started, and then it just slowly branched out from there. I moved into Borg because I was just getting stir crazy on the Klingon encounter, and I never played a Borg Starfleeter, so April has me beat there because I never played Starfleet Borg, but I was everything in Klingon encounter and then a Borg in Borg itself. And then, of course, I'll walk around in the last 3 years there. So when they would announce auditions or new tryouts for new positions, that's when you could in-house audition and see. You didn't request something and get it. You had to work for it. And that was always an interesting part of the whole experience there as an actor. And April, just to quickly say, one of April's beautiful training points, because for a while she was our introductory trainer when people were first hired, is a lot of people would say, do you hire fans and train them to act? And April's line was always, our preferred approach is to hire actors and train them to be fans, so that we could maintain that level of professionalism and quality that we wanted to keep as a standard for the Trek brand.
And April, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the only actor at Star Trek The Experience to simultaneously have 2 characters, 2 walk-around characters who are both represented in the ads and the promo banners at the attraction.
Yes, the Andorian, Commander Tarin, and Professor T'Pril were, well, obviously I didn't play them on the same day. The only time I ever played them on the same day was the very, very last day. We were open. But, I did 2 days a week as one character and 2 days a week as the other character. And it was such a thrill to be allowed to portray such different characters. I mean, they're worlds apart in terms of how their personalities, and I got to run the gamut from absolutely no emotion to, well, you've met Commander Tom Ridge.
Emotion personified.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bitter, guys, because my proposal in the last weeks, they were suggesting, any kind of interesting ideas as we go into the last weeks that were open. And I did a transporter accident where April would portray Commander T'Pren, Andorian Vulcan hybrid, and it was shot down.
I'm shocked.
I was very disappointed.
Yeah. By the way, we have some business to get to, but very quickly, one of our listeners, John Kokorian, says there is a tremendous fandom bar here in Las Vegas that did a big party just recently for Star Trek: The Experience and the talent. I met April and Kirsten there. Such wonderful people, and it was a great party.
Yes, that was our 20th anniversary party at Millennium Fandom Bar.
Yes.
And those people went out of their way to make us welcome. I'm going to say there are 250 or so of us showed up. And it was
Yeah, it was a great time. You've got to give your props to Alex. Forgive me, Alex, I won't even try to pronounce your last name. The owner of Millennium Fandom Bar. He works very hard to build a sense of geek community here in Vegas. And he really enjoyed having us there. And we had alums from Trek coming out from across the country and coming in from LA to join us for the party and to say hello. It was really, really great. And we had fans coming in from clear across the country as well. And it was wonderful.
One of our other listeners, David, is calling you out, Kirsten, on your idea. He says, "Oh man, visions of Tuvix."
Exactly.
To which Earl says, "Tuvix in a leisure suit would have been Groovix." So, all right, Ken, we got a little business. Kirsten and April, hang on with us just a moment here, and then we have a caller standing by. But first,
we want to remind you about our shop because, who doesn't like to shop? We've actually had a shirt shop running for about, I don't know, as long as Mission Log's been on, so about 5.5 years now. But it got really, dusty. And then it got really better when we hooked up with our friend Carl, who does some really great design work on his own. He's actually run a shirt shop on TeePublic I think it's TeePublic. Is it TeePublic? Please tell me I got that right. Oh, excellent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's actually run his own shirt shop on TeePublic for quite a while. But the shirt that April is wearing, actually, can we switch to April? Is that possible? Because the shirt that April is wearing was actually from our friend Carl. But that was a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, I think, when I just jokingly said, I would absolutely wear a shirt from the Ditalics Mining Corporation. And then the next day, Carl sent in that design. And then dopes, it took us another 2.5 years to say, hey, maybe Carl would make shirts that we could actually sell to people too. So if you go to missionlogpod.com, did I get that right? Lord have mercy. I'm going to mess up something every time. So
it's only been 6 years. You got 8 more to go.
I know. It's only our website too. It's not important. Missionlogpodcast.com. If you go there and you click up at the top, there's a link that says shop. And once you get there, which I think you're seeing on the screen now, all kinds of designs to check out. Some that are a tiny bit older, like Cool as Kirk or Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. Some that are brand new, like Isolinear John and Ken is there, of course, and the incredible Lieutenant J shirt that just hit. It's not Lieutenant J. I'm sorry, it's just J. It's just J. That's how cool she is now. It doesn't even need Lieutenant. You know exactly what it is when you see J emblazoned. That's shirts, that's stickers, that's John's favorite tapestries, which I know you're a huge fan of those as well, John. What else?
Big fan. Yeah.
What else is up on the site?
You hit the nail on the head. You said the incredible J, and it's an incredible shirt, and it's the incredible J, and it's an incredible piece of artwork that Carl did. So definitely check that one out. That one today, our friend Tim, he posted that he got his in the mail, and he's wearing it proudly. He posted photos on Twitter and Facebook. Meredith, our #1 Mission Log Live fan, she was wearing hers, so you can see it if you go look for it. The J shirt has absolutely taken off. And here's what's fun. I've been posting other things. And just today, I posted an old classic. Here's a look at my robot guts.
Nice.
So that, of course, from I, Mud, that was Norman wearing that shirt. So he wasn't wearing that shirt, but our shirt is based on Norman from I, Mud. He could have been wearing that shirt. You don't know. But I just put that up today, and now there's a sale on that very item for the next 2 days. So you pick the color, you pick the design, and you can show off your very own robot guts.
Very cool. So the website again, missionlogpodcast.com, and then click up at shop up at the top. And then when you 10% of people going to STLV, show up at STLV, we'll all get together and we'll take a group picture in our shirts. And pants are suggested as well, but we're not selling Mission Log pants. We'll have to talk to Carl about that.
Not mandatory. No.
Well, okay, right. I want to remind people how to get in touch with us. There is a Zoom link wherever you happen to be watching right now. So you should click on that Zoom link, or you can give us a call, 669-900-6833, 669-900-6833. I know somebody has joined us, calling us. Unfortunately, I don't know who.
Yeah, we don't have a name.
Is the mystery caller there?
Hi, it's Meredith, #1 fan.
Oh, wow.
It's Meredith, #1 fan. Fantastic.
Hi.
Hi.
Cool. So I never got to go to the Star Trek experience, which is really sad. So my question is for all of you guys, and it is, if they were going to make a new Star Trek experience in this day and age, what are the pieces from the original that you think should still be there, and what are the changes that you would make to it?
Oh.
Here.
That's so good. Yeah. All right.
Can I know you guys were part of it, but while you're thinking about it, can I tell you really quickly what needs to stay? There's nothing more boring than standing in a line where there's nothing to look at except for other people. And even when you got in line for the experience, there was this sort of history of exploration, really. It wasn't even a history of space travel because it started long before we went to space. But then it came a point where all of a sudden we're not looking at actual history of exploration anymore. We're looking at the Star Trek history of exploration. So things like Zefram Cochrane taking off for the first time and things like that. That to me is always one of the first things I think about, not because it was the first thing you saw, but because it was engaging. I mean, the last time I rode the experience, there was no line. And yet it took me a while to get there because there was just so much really cool stuff as you went in.
I agree. I think the History of the Future Museum, which is what it was called, should definitely stay. Obviously, it would be extended now, much farther than it was. And backwards too, because we have prequels now that we didn't have before. Ooh, and it would have to go off into a parallel universe on there for JJ first.
You have a totally separate ride queue that opens to a different area by going through that. Yeah.
Wow. I love it already.
Yeah. What about you, Kirsten?
I don't know what to say to add. And I certainly would like to see more original series. I was also a DS9 fan, so the Promenade I really liked, and interacting with a lot of just the Klingon and Ferengi interactions were always entertaining. And I would say more aliens. When we opened, we had a lot of character walk-arounds. And over the years, the population kind of shrank. So I would say probably more aliens, and try to write alien roles for the show itself so that there are alien characters from the very beginning. Vulcans like April, who would be in the show later on. It took a little bit of jimmying to the script to open up lines that were not dedicated to human characters and fold that in, and to make something dedicated like that right from the beginning. Because that's one of the hallmarks of Trek, and one of the things I think fans dream about is interacting with not just with Starfleeters and not just with 24th century humans, but with the aliens of the time. So I know that was like one of the biggest selling points of Quarks. Was interacting with the aliens. So that would be the thing I would mostly go for. I mean, they hit a lot of the right notes, just right down to the retail area, as well as the nature of Quark's bar. So I think, recreating Trek, just focus on the interactive experience, much like they say the Star Wars one is going to be, where that's going to be an interactive experience right from the get-go, where each individual guest is something of a character in a story. Something along those lines, I think, would be a great idea. More stories on the floor. People enjoyed that. The interaction was just people. You can't underrate it. You just can't.
No,
Yeah.
that was possibly the best thing that we did there, was that interaction between the characters, each other, but we would just pull these guests, sometimes unwittingly, into our little machinations and create these really involved stories, and that would last the entire day and sometimes a couple of days. And some of those threads went on forever, and that's what we did, and that's what made our job so exciting. So if they could pull that in and really get that improv, I think what we were so good at was improv within that universe, because we knew it so well, and we knew ourselves so well, our characters so well, and we knew the other characters so well, that everything we did was just like clockwork what we did. Occasionally some crazy thing would happen, but most of us knew each other so well that just the beauty of that improvisation was something to behold. And it was probably, like I said, the best thing that we did there.
I cannot disagree. Yeah, Kirsten, I was about to say when you were talking about how great that experience was with the other actors, just that interactivity. We've come a long way, even in the years since the experience closed. And you look at what Universal has done with Harry Potter, you look at what Disney is planning to do with Star Wars, the idea of a totally immersive environment. I remember reading somewhere, hearing on a podcast, maybe it's all rumor, so don't quote me on it, but the idea that when I go into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, I won't be able to buy a Star Wars t-shirt, because that's not something that is in the universe of Star Wars. Now, if I go to Tomorrowland and I go to the Star Trader shop, I can buy a Star Wars t-shirt there, or I can buy a toy branded with Star Wars. But when I'm in that world, I'm truly in that world. And they don't want anything to break that illusion, which sounds really cool. So I love the idea of, the promenade was great. You had all these shops, and then the rides were one thing, the attractions were one thing, but just sitting at the bar, sitting in the restaurant, having the characters come up and talk to you and say something hilarious, and that is the most memorable thing. I remember to this day, Michael Hartnett as, which Borg was he? 3 of 16?
3 of 6.
3 of 6, yeah. I remember him, as soon as I saw him asking, can we take a picture? And he said, I do not have one for you to take. And it was, he must have said it a million times, but it was absolutely the perfect Borg-like answer. And he was wonderful in that. Yeah. So April, you hit upon it. You said that the actors did such a great job at carrying out these storylines that would last a day or weeks or longer. And it always worked really well, except when it didn't. That's what I want to know about.
Well, Kirsten was my nemesis in more ways than one. He was Commander Tarin's, the thorn in her side, basically. But the two of them were never on the time station at the same time. They didn't want two Andorians together, so they would put him with me when I was Professor T'Pril, very prim, proper, subdued. And it seemed to be his job to crack me up, to make and he did that a couple of times, and it was quite mortifying to poor Professor T'Pril.
I'm shocked.
There was one time I got her twice in 5 minutes. She just had to turn about and walk off the floor. It was great. It was just great. And the thing is it's not even like I really tried. I would just have typical Kirsten April banter, but in our characters. And at some point I could hit that right note and April just had to walk away. So it's okay, because on those very, very rare occasions that Tarin and Kastran got together, Tarin was always ripping Kastran a new one. So that was always fun, because Kastran hated working under Tarin. Tarin was in charge of the Andorian delegation, and he just sat there and undercut her every chance he got. And April was brilliant at it.
Yes.
When they brought in the Mego action figures, when they brought in the 12-inch action figures, and they bring in an Andorian, and it was male, Tarin would just rage around the station that she didn't get her figure. She was promised a figure and she didn't get it. And she would just be so upset.
Oh, but wait a minute. Cut to April. Wait, what do you have there? Please explain.
It's a Tarin Barbie.
Oh, because that is so good.
She did it so much.
That is amazing. Who made that?
Actually, our friend Vernon knew somebody who worked for Mattel who pretty much gave him all the parts, and he put it together.
Oh,
isn't that amazing?
That is incredible.
So Tarin finally got her Barbie.
And she got a Barbie, no less. That's great.
You know, it's so funny though. After all that stuff, he would torture me. But one of the things that was so great about what we did is that even if there was no one around, if we were out on one of our walk-arounds and there was no one to talk to, we would still talk to each other in character. We didn't drop character at all. As long as we were out there, you walked out that door into into Quarks, and you were whatever character you were, and it didn't matter what happened. And so, we would walk around. Sometimes we'd walk through the museum, through the queue line, and we never talked to each other like Kirsten and April. We talked in character. I don't think there are many acting jobs where you do that,
Hey, can I go back to a question? Well, hold on. First of all, let's remind people, thank you very much, Meredith, for calling in. And if anybody else wants to, we still have a very few minutes left. So hit the Zoom link or call 669-900-6833, 669-900-6833. I want to go back to something that's kind of, I don't know, may seem mundane, but I'm curious about it. You mentioned that you had 30 or 40 shows a day sometimes, which means 30 or 40 groups of people coming through, which means you guys were dealing with the public a lot. We asked about the training earlier as far as the acting. Tell me what went into the safety part of that. I mean, were you guys like, if something went wrong, were you guys the people who, okay, I'm no longer serving you drinks, I'm now getting you safely off this, shuttle? Or were you the people who stood back and let, somebody else come in and shepherd everybody out?
No, we often would have to take people out if there was a fire alarm, which in the first year happened quite a bit. It had more to do with the Hilton than it did with us, but that fire alarm would go off and boom, we were taking people out. There were some emergencies where we had to deal with the public, keep them calm, move them out. That was part of our training. And we were all trained. In fact, I helped to write the training manual about the equipment and how it worked. Because when they gave us all this stuff about the equipment, it was written in gobbledygook, So what I had to do basically was make it understandable so I could train other people how to run this equipment and the things that could go wrong with it, and what to do. I mean, we did have an e-stop on all of the pieces of equipment, which would shut it down immediately. It's also called a kill switch, I think. And anytime that would happen, of course, there would be techs would come in and fix the issue, but we were often the people that would have to get everybody out so nobody got hurt.
So then if there's a fire alarm and all of a sudden, you've been the person who's guiding them on this fake experience, and now they're saying, no, seriously, we got to move. I mean, is there a moment where they're like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh.
I don't know. I mean, we didn't drop our characters necessarily.
Right.
And we didn't yell at them to scream, or run, or scream at them, or anything like that. We just did it, and I guess sometimes they probably thought it was all part of.
Yeah, I've heard one or two stories of people who had no idea, because you get on the Enterprise in the story, and instantly you've got these authoritative people saying, go here, go there, over there, now, move it. And so there would be these moments when people would be like, ladies and gentlemen, please follow me this way. And you're going through doors that open with panic bars, and they're on hinges. And then you're all of a sudden outside in the Hilton parking lot. And that's when people realize something went wrong.
Yeah.
So that could actually happen. But that was part of our training, our job. We were actors and ride operators.
Yeah.
So we were fully trained. All of our training included the safety procedures involved in the fire alarms, evacuations, and so
on. Chris Riker in the chat says she stayed at her post when the trainees ran. And Matthew Corey says at least the techs weren't dressed as Pac-Leds. That's a good point. Very good point, Matthew. Yeah.
They were smart.
Yeah.
They made it go.
They did.
They did indeed. Mm-hmm. Hey, are we doing the lightning round tonight, or are we not doing the lightning round tonight?
Oh, lightning round? What is this lightning round you speak of?
Yeah, that's what everybody always says. So we're going to do the lightning round in just a moment. Really quickly, though, before we do that, I want to remind you about something that's coming up in about 35, 40 minutes. The people from Priority One, also a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, are going to be broadcasting live or podcasting live or narrowcasting or whatever. Every Tuesday night at 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. Elijah, Kenna, Tony, and Winters bring you news from all over the Star Trek multiverse. That's TV and movie news, gaming news, literary reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. They kick off their show about 40 minutes after our show. So what you do is you go to facebook.com/Priority One Podcast, and then you watch Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast being made live. And if you can't do that live, because I know it's getting late for some people, go to wherever you get podcasts and just download Priority One. Because even if you can't be there for the wackiness that is the live show, they do just a really good, really tight show that comes out every Friday, talking about all that stuff that we were talking about, plus other stuff they don't do live. So Priority One is the show. Catch them live in about a little bit over half an hour, or catch them not live at other times. So what I'm hearing, because John is the guy who talks to our guests, generally speaking, before the show starts, I cannot be approached.
Yeah. No, you're difficult like that. Yeah.
I'm horrible where those things are concerned. Yeah. Generally speaking, John doesn't tell people about the lightning round.
Oh,
but,
see, I forgot again this week.
It's weird how that keeps happening.
I'm so sorry.
But you guys have probably seen a game show or two, so you probably get the idea. The lightning round is we throw questions at you as quickly as we can, and you throw answers back to us as quickly as you can. Are you game?
I'm pretty slow, but what the heck? I'll give it a shot.
Let's see how horrible this goes.
All right. That's the spirit.
These are actually weird questions for these guys, though, because I think they've actually answered some of them already. Like, I know favorite Star Trek series we've done, but here, this will just get you, set up and rolling. Favorite Star Trek series?
Next Gen.
Okay.
TOS.
All right, good.
You can't say Andorian and you can't say Vulcan. See, that got edited on the fly.
Mm-hmm, it sure did.
What Star Trek race or species would you be? You can't be Andorian or Vulcan. April.
Orion.
Kirsten.
Changeling. Then I'll be anything. Then I can be Andorian.
That's interesting. Changeling would be good, and I would love to see that makeup, honestly. For both of you, we'll start with Kirsten this time, because otherwise it's just the same thing over and over again. Favorite Star Trek bad guy?
Wow, that's a good question. Actually, I'm going to go with Mark Leonard playing the Romulan commander in Balance of Terror. First appearance of the Romulans. It was a great first appearance of villains, actually. I mean, they were they were pushing for, this is a lousy lightning round, isn't it? They were pushing for the Romulans to be the regular villains, and they ended up going with the Klingons. But I just loved that episode, and I thought that character was just a wonderful, honorable adversary, and a real cool match for Kirk.
All right, April, favorite Star Trek bad guy?
Oh God, I can't remember his name, but it was There Are Four Lights guy.
Oh yeah, David Warner in Chain of Command.
Yeah. What's his character name?
He was Gull something.
Gull.
Yeah. All right. Favorite Star Trek starship, April?
The Enterprise D. I lived on it.
Okay, Kirsten, same question. Favorite Star Trek starship?
Oh, I would go back and forth between the Constitution class, whether it's the classic design or the refit, or the E. I love the design of the Enterprise E. That was a sweet setup, and so I'll take that pick.
Those are all correct answers. Good. Have you seen the animated series? And I'm certain for both of you the answer is yes.
No.
Oh,
but I did.
What?
Listen to all your podcasts about it. So.
Okay, fair enough. Kirsten.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Probably favorite episode is More Tribbles, More Troubles.
Wow. Okay. A little dark horse candidate there. Most people say Yesteryear, but we'll add you to the list. We'll add your vote.
Yesteryear is great. It really, really is great. I have to admit, that's a pretty good answer.
Favorite item on the menu at Quark's Bar, the now long closed Quark's Bar?
Oh, the flaming ribs of Targ.
That is a correct answer. Yes. Yeah. Kirsten.
It's the ribs of Targ. If I can't duplicate April, then I'll switch to. I actually enjoyed the Starfleet chopped salad. It was actually it had shrimp in it, and it was a real dense, solid salad. I loved it.
Had that many times. They layered it. It was served beautifully. Now I want one. Thank you. Way to go.
I'm going to cut this a tiny bit short because I have one other real question I want to get to. So we do have a customary last question. Have either of you ever been to Vulcan, Alberta, Canada?
No, but I would love to go. I'm going to Montreal. I don't know how far away that is.
I'm given to understand that Vulcan, Alberta is really not close to anything, is what I hear. But, if you happen by, tell them we said, hey. I do have one real question. Unfortunately, we're running so short on time. I'm going to ask one of you to raise your hand and tell me if you think you have the best one. Because so many people came through, and as you said, April, as you said, April, I mean, everybody was coming through for the first time. Is there one group? Is there one individual? Is there one guest that this many years later stands out for you?
Oh, gosh. Well, I got to be Ensign Thomas, which was one of the Starfleet officers, for Commander Riker when he came through. So Jonathan Frakes, and he was a big happy bear of a guy, coming through, big grin on his face the whole time. And as he got up the turbo lift, he was just smiling, and he said, "Nice job, Ensign Thomas," and he walked away. So I'll never forget that. That was fun.
That's pretty
Kirsten?
great.
I actually did Ensign Thomas for Leonard Nimoy, and that was as intimidating as you thought, because they did a special show for him and his entourage. They surrounded him with like a 6-foot bubble of emptiness. So walking down the transit corridor, at one point it was just me and him, and that's just gonna turn your guts to jelly. So.
Well, coincidentally, 6-foot bubble of emptiness is the name of Ken's album. So, folks, coming up on Mission Log Live, make sure you tune in every Tuesday night. We have some amazing guests lined up. Next week, we have Chase Masterson, who will be talking about Pop Hero Coalition, and she will be bringing a special guest of her own. And then coming up soon after that, we have a world-renowned voiceover artist and part of a little show called Star Trek Continues, Vic Mignogna. So make sure you tune in to Mission Log Live upcoming Tuesdays. Guys, thank you so much, April Hebert and Kirsten Szczepanski from Star Trek The Experience. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about with you, but sadly, we're up against the clock. We'll do it again sometime.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live by Infinity Networks. Producer Brandon Bradley. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network, including not just Mission at Log, whatever. This show, other shows, including Women at Warp and Priority One and The Trek Files. Thanks to everybody who joined us live. Thanks to everybody who downloaded it later. And we will talk to you next week.